Hello. It is February 9th, 2025. I have for you a weekly wrap up. I read a lot this week. I started dipping into some of the manga that was on my TBR. I had a very large TBR. If you saw that TBR video, I don't know if it's up yet. I don't know. I don't know the order that I'm going to be doing this. But there was a lot of manga because a lot of the manga collapsed. And so I did dip into quite a bit of that this past week. But it's not all manga. I also finished a game. That never happens. I did. And then I have a couple things to haul. Not very many. Just two. Look at that. But starting with the books, the first book I read was I did finish up a reread of Cujo by Stephen King. This for me is kind of like, it's not my favorite Stephen King book, but for me it is kind of like prime classic King. You know, Cujo. It's like very, it's got all of his hallmarks. It's got a very tragic villain, stuff like that. Cujo is the story of, it's a Castle Rock story. And it is the story of this big old Saint Bernard who gets rabies and kills a bunch of people. They also have like adultery, and it ties into like Frank Dodd's. It ties into the Dead Zone quite a bit, which I haven't read in a while. I do need to reread the Dead Zone. I will soon. But it is just very much classic King. I feel like everybody kind of knows about Cujo. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my reread. I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's not one of my favorites. It is not one of my favorite Stephen King books by far. But like I said, for me, it is very much classic King. Not much to say about Cujo, honestly. After that, I read a book with my highest group of 5th graders this year. That is Touching Spirit Bear by Ben Michelson. I used to read this with 7th graders when I went to high school. My high group is all like 80th percentile and higher. They're all very smart. I was like, you guys can handle Touching Spirit Bear. And Touching Spirit Bear is... I feel like it is very much I feel like it's very common up in like North Dakota, Minnesota region, because the author is from like Minnesota. It did win the Flickertail Award, which is a North Dakota thing. But this is about this very troubled young teenager. He's like 14 maybe, who has been constant trouble because he's from an abusive family, and he just is so mad all the time, and then he does beat up this kid and give him like permanent brain damage. And he has a choice then. He can either go to jail or he can go and live on this island in like a circle justice kind of Native American thing. And it's good. I understand why it was, has been so important for so long. This is a book that I had to read in 7th grade, It's not one of my favorites. Ben Michelson wrote a whole lot. And they were all lauded pretty much in the same way that this one was. He writes important books for middle schoolers. That's what he does. And this is kind of one of them. I do enjoy it. I do think there's a lot of interesting things in here. I think 3 out of 5 stars. I don't know. It's just like not quite for me. It's kind of, for me, Ben Michelson falls under the same umbrella as Gary Paulson. Like, I understand why he's important and I get that he's important. He's not my thing. So there's that. So I did read that one. After that, I did play a game. I finished playing What Remains of Edith Finch, which came in 2017. Despite the fact that this game does not play well with like a mouse and keyboard, like it is very much, it wants you to use a controller. Okay, What Remains of Edith Finch follows this young woman as she goes back to her like ancestral home, and wanders through the house and learns how all of her ancestors died because her family, the Finch family, has this massive curse on them, and they all die in horrible ways. And I've been working on it for a while. I'm not very, like, in the same way that I take a while to watch a TV show, I take a while to play a game. Total, this took me about maybe 2.5 hours to complete. But that 2.5 hours was genuinely over about 7 months. Like, genuinely, it took a while. I think my favorite story was Lewis's, just both in terms of gameplay and in terms of the story itself. So when you wander around this house and you find like journals or like letters or whatever, and then you'll kind of dip into a fantastical version of this character's death. And how they died, and they're all very different depending on the character. And Lewis is really interesting because you genuinely have 2 different things going on at once. Like, you kept having to like chop the heads off of fish, and doing that you pull it over and chop the heads, and while you're doing that you're also using your WASD to like walk around like this like RPG kind of style thing, and you just got so used to it. It was just in terms of how it related to the story itself and just in interest, it was so good. Lewis is my favorite. I also liked his little room. That was fun. He was my favorite. But it was a really good game. I don't know how many games I will finish this year. I have gotten to the point where I'm just focusing on one at a time. instead of having a million going at once, which is kind of what I did previously, which also is why it takes me so much longer to play them. So now I have the Thaumaturge downloaded, so I'm working on that right now. I'm not, you know, very far in, but I am working on that right now. But yeah, I did play What Remains of Edith Finch. Obviously, right now it's the only game I've finished this year, so right now it's sitting at number 1, and it was good. So like, I could see it staying there. All right, then I read. Okay, so what I have left, I only have 2 that are not graphic novels or manga because, like I said, I ran into a lot of manga for my TBR because I was trying to kind of catch up. But I did read The Black Hunger by Nicholas Pullen, and The Black Hunger is a historical horror novel. It kind of, what did it remind me of? As I was reading it, it was reminding me of something, but now I can't think of it. As Meat Loves Salt, which was not a historical horror, but it was like a historical gay thing. And this follows this young, like, lord, and he ends up learning about this cannibalistic cult that deals with like Tibet and China, and like Genghis Khan is involved. Also he's gay, and he has this guy who he's like grew up with, and they're in love and everything. The thing with this one was that it was fine in a lot of ways. It wasn't. We had a couple of different stories going on, and honestly what was the most interesting was the doctor's story that we kind of dip into in the middle. By the time that was over, I was kind of over the whole book. You know, like, and then I realized, like, okay, we got to get back to this and do this and this and this. But I genuinely didn't really care all that much. I give it 3 out of 5 stars total. It's fine. If you're really into historical horror, this would be a good one. But again, he's a Brit. The main character is. And it's just not as interesting to me, okay? I just don't really like the British all that much. The author's Canadian, but he's not British, but like, the main character is British, and I don't care that much. I give it 3 out of 5 stars, like I said. All right, after that, we get into the manga. So the first one I read was one that I was kind of debating whether I wanted to keep going on with the series or not. It was one that I thought was kind of interesting, kind of fun. And it is the first volume of Blade and Bastard by Makoto Fugetsu and Kumo Kagyu, which is I got this from Hansama last year when I saw it at Hansama, and this is a dungeon crawler one, which I'm not a big fan of dungeon crawlers. I don't like the TTRPG flavor of manga. I just don't like it. Like the isekai point stuff, this one did not lean into like the level thing, which I'm glad for because I just can't stand that. But it was a dungeon crawler, and we follow this guy, and he in this world you can get resurrected, and so what he does is he goes and he takes corpses, and then they pay him to get the corpses, and then he has them resurrected. And then he does find this little fella in there, and they are a slave, but like they act like a feral dog, and it was kind of interesting. I did like the main character, this guy right here. And I think I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Like, it was really intriguing, but I do know that if I decide to continue this series, I'm gonna put this on my shelf, and it's gonna sit there for months, and then eventually at the end of the year, I'm gonna unhaul it because I'm not gonna continue the series at all. So I'm not gonna continue the series. Like I said, like, it was interesting. I think anime of this would be interesting because, again, I think action works better in anime, although the art style was not bad. A lot of the times art style with action gets really like kind of sketchy. This one didn't, but I think it's worth it, especially if this is really your kind of anime and manga. It's not for me, so that's why I'm not continuing, but it was good. And then I read 3 consecutive volumes in a manga series, so I'm just gonna talk about them all at one time. That's Battle Royale. I recently finished collecting these manga after I started collecting them when I was in like high school, when they were $4 on thrift books, and then I stopped for some reason after like volume 9, and now they were like $20 to $40 a piece after that. I'm not proud. But I did read volume 11, volume 12, and volume 13 last week. And I have read the series before. I read it online when I was in high school after, you know, reading the book and watching the movie, and I love Battle Royale. Basically, Battle Royale is the original Hunger Games, except for it is different. I mean, it is not just like the Hunger Games. It is very different in a lot of ways. But what Battle Royale does is it follows a Japanese middle school class. Yes, these are supposed to be middle schoolers. The art style in this series is terrible. It takes a Japanese middle school class, and they all get taken to this certain location, and they have to kill each other till there's no one left. So it is very much, it's different from the Hunger Games, is that all these kids know each other and they have had like a relatively normal life before coming on this. Koshin Nakami, the author of the original novel, has stated that The Long Walk was one of his big inspirations. He loves Stephen King, which I'm like, wonderful. I really like that back in high school. I really like that thought. What the manga does is it expands it a little bit more. So for Battle Royale, I watched the movie first, and I think that was the right move because I really enjoyed the movie. And then I read the novel, which is much different. It's very different from the movie. The movie and the novel are very different stories. They have the same basic idea, they have the same basic characters, but the movie changes a lot. They're almost two entirely different stories. They're like alternate universes, and the manga takes that and expands it even more. Like, this is a 400-page novel and it has a 15-volume manga series. Like, we get backstory, we get extra things, we get a little bit more with the program. Super fun. The art style leaves something to be desired. It's really ugly, and the characters are really, really ugly. And there's a lot of tits and there's a lot of gore. That's how it is. So it's an acquired taste, but if you love the story of Battle Royale and if you love the characters, it's wonderful. I love it. I'm past, my favorite character is Mimura. It's always been Mimura. So I'm past where he's dead, where he's died. This is the art style. This man is supposed to be 16 years old. So that's how that is. But I'm currently right now, I'm rereading volume 14, and it's just like, it's so good. It makes me want to rewatch the movie so bad, honestly. And I would honestly, for being completely real here, I would love like a manga adaptation of this one, with like a different art style. Like they did there was an Angel's Border kid that came out like 2010 or something like that. That was a side story for Battle Royale that had a better art style. I'm like, can we have them draw the whole series over again, please? Because it's really bad. It's not good. But I was very happy to finish these and work on continuing that. I will be probably finishing my reread of the Battle Royale manga this week, possibly today. We'll see how it goes. So there's that. After that, I read the first volume of Blood on the Tracks by Shuzo Oshimi. Oshimi loves writing about little weirdos who have some kind of issue with some kind of woman, and I live for it. I love it. Blood on the Tracks is possibly his most popular series. It follows this boy whose mother is very, very overprotective of him, and there is something wrong with her. And I mean, I'm in just because it's Oshimi, and I can always vibe with Oshimi. I do think that genuinely, I think my favorite series from him is probably Flowers of Evil. This one did not hit quite as hard as his other two did on their first volume, but we'll see. This is the art. Love me Oshimi. He's just a little freak, and I'm loving for it. I think I gave it 4 stars maybe. I don't remember. I think these ones I gave between 4 and 5 stars, all of them. All right, then I read the other actual prose thing. It's a novella though. That is The Woods All Black by Lee Mandello, and I love Lee Mandello, honestly. Summer Suns, wonderful. And this one, a couple chapters in, I was like, okay, it's fine, it's all right. But then when I got really into this, goddamn, this is how you do historical horror right here, Mr. Pullen. This is how you do it. This follows a young trans man in the 1920s. So throughout the entire thing, other characters are, misgendering him and stuff like that because it's the 1920s. And he is going to this very small Appalachian town to be a nurse, to help with vaccinations, to help with like midwifery and stuff like that. Unfortunately, he does wear pants all the time, and nobody really likes him because they think he's ungodly. And also in this town, there is this young man named Stevie, whatever his last name is, and he is very, he's seen as like a rambunctious girl who needs to be put in her place, and it's about them. We've got some eldritch thing happening in the woods. I'm not quite sure. Kind of creepy. We got some monster fucking here. It's kind of fun. It's so good. It's so good. I do wish it was a full-length novel, honestly. If I had any complaints about this, is that I wish it was a full-length novel, because I do think if it was a full-length novel, we could have had a lot of the beauty that Summer Suns had. I am planning on rereading Summer Suns this month, and I'm very excited for it, because Lee Mandello just does not miss. Lee Mandello, I love it. 5 out of 5 stars. Beautiful writing, too. I mean, it's gorgeous. All right, 2 more. I read 2 more. I did read Otaku Vampire's Love Bite Volume 1 by Julieta Suzuki. This is one I'm planning on continuing on with. This is another one that I got from Hansama, but this is a series about this vampire who moves to Japan because she loves anime, and it's funny. It's one of those kind of funny, cute ones. The art style is very cute. I do kind of like ones that are kind of like meta and kind of parody. Those are kind of, that's kind of what I'm into for manga nowadays. Stuff like Wotakoi, Monthly Girl Sasaki, and stuff like that. I believe I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm planning on continuing on with it. It's fun. It's cute. It's cute. All right. Oh my gosh, this is getting difficult without spilling things everywhere. After that, the last book I read this past week was a comic, and that is Dodge City by Josh Trujillo, Kara McGee, Brittany Peer, and Gonzalo Lopez, which is about a group of people who do dodgeball. And this is very 2010s in a lot of ways. It's very like Tumblr 2010s. It's very diverse in a way that like the authors weren't really quite sure what they were doing, but they really wanted people on Tumblr to like it, kind of stuff. I feel like a lot of people don't realize just how much of a cultural lodestone Tumblr was for a lot of fandom spaces in the 2010s. Like, it was huge. And I don't know, it was fine. The art was fine. The story was pretty meh. I can't really vibe right with these like sports comics that were really a thing for a while there. They really were. Like, on the back, they talk about the hits like Lumberjanes, Giant Days, stuff that we saw all over in the mid 2010s. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was fine. I got it for like $3 off a Book Outlet. That's why I bought it. That's why I have it. That's why I have it. So this is what I read in terms of what we're keeping and what we're getting rid of. I'm getting rid of Cujo because it's a mass market paperback. This is not mine, so I'm just taking that back to school. I'm getting rid of the Black Hunger. I don't keep it. I'm getting rid of Blade and Bastard. I'm keeping these because I spent too much money on them, and now they're my, like, I don't know, retirement plan. I'm keeping this one, and I'm keeping this. I'm also keeping this. Geez, that's a lot, actually. Jesus. I'm getting rid of this. So those are my stacks. Getting rid of, keeping. What I received, I only received 2 things. I received a book, I received a movie. Unfortunately, yesterday I had a bit of a breakdown and ordered a lot of things. So next week and the week after might not be so pretty, but I did get a pre-order in. I got Hot Singles in Your Area by Jordan Shively, which is a horror novel. It looks kind of fun. It looks kind of wacky. We got that. And then I did also get the movie As Above, So Below, which I have been wanting to watch for a while. It's found footage, catacombs, looks super fun. I'm excited. So that is that. That is everything. So, see, look at that, so pretty. I will talk to you later, and goodbye.